smells that?
Smells like a rock in my radiator.
Oh, is it your fan?
Yeah.
Oh. I wouldn't know what that sounds like.
Look at us. Beast to the east, baby.
He's coming.
Risha on the Bandit. Vanya on the XS. Love it.
So after the little gravel detour there, the GPS kind of went off track, but no big deal. All the bikes made it fine. We're basically, you know, we're done with the really fun, twisty stuff. Just gonna hit up some overlooks and then head back to the campground. So we're just riding chill on this narrow country road, a little rough, and come up to this section. So I was following Andrew, my brother was behind me. It was like a steep rise and kind of a blind crest. So Andrew went through, I was coming up on it, and I see that after the crest there's a curve, and also there's a driveway to the right where rainstorms had washed some gravel onto the road. So there's this nice patch of gravel right where you want to take the line. And the two tracks where cars go, those are basically clear. So my wheels, they just barely touch that little spot of gravel, and it feels squirrely. So straighten it out, keep going, and I look in my mirror to see if my brother will make it through that corner. I see him coming in, perfect line, and then boom, it happens so fast. It just boom, bike on the ground. I see it in my mirror, honk at Andrew, he doesn't hear me, just keeps going. So I swing it around, go back up there. My brother's already trying to pick the bike up. I'm like, dude, chill, forget the bike. Are you okay? Everything seemed pretty okay. So I helped him get the bike off, the shoulder. We pushed it into that clearing and assessed the situation. So here's some photos of, little damage. So as you can see, my brother, he was wearing, good motorcycle gear, jacket with the protection, thick gloves, and steel-toed boots. That boot was pretty impressive. The laces got ripped off, but, no damage done. His hands were a little bruised from the impact, and the helmet was scuffed, so, helmets are obviously mandatory here. The little face shield snapped off. The bike itself, the front turn signal was, the plastic snapped off, and well, it didn't crank after we got it back up. The clutch lever, we tipped it to the left, that got a little tweaked, the little safety switch there, so no big deal, adjusted that. Electrical tape on the turn signal, electrical tape on the helmet visor, and we were back on the road in 20 minutes. So this was, let's call it a minor incident, but just because he was wearing the right gear, that saved a lot of potentially worse injuries. So what's the takeaway here? We're just chilling, we're not doing anything crazy, but the combination of factors where you have the blind crest, you have a pile of gravel, you have a curve, and he was riding the Suzuki Bandit, and his front tire was pretty worn. It was basically a slick, and on a sportier bike you have more forward weight bias, so if that tire hits anything other than ideal pavement, you might be in trouble. It literally looked like you hit a patch of black ice or an oil slick or something, and just poof, just straight down. So that was, I guess it added to the adventure. But everyone made it back to the campground safe. Obviously, we didn't take any other scenic roads because his hand was a little sore. He said the clutch was a little hard to depress, but so that's what happened there, and enjoy the rest of the video. So after a hard day of riding in the Blue Ridge Mountains, amazing scenery, fantastic roads, had an amazing time, and I noticed my high beam on the XS750 wasn't working. So when you turn the high beam on, this little warning light comes on and the low beam stays on. So the diagnostic equipment that I brought was just a multimeter, and we got the TS100 soldering iron, a couple test leads, a test light, and just a couple hand tools. So what's the issue here with the high beam? So this connector, middle pin is the feed for the low beam. The black wire is the ground, obviously, and the yellow is for the high beam. So when you turn the high beam on, the indicator comes on, but it doesn't light up the high beam filament. So very simple check we can do. So luckily this is an H4 automotive bulb, which is very nice. It's easily replaceable. The filaments still look intact. So let's do a resistance check on the filaments here. So we'll see the meter in the picture. So if the low beam is right here and the ground is right there, 0.3 ohms, there's continuity. Now between high beam and ground, infinite. Or it's intermittent. I've had this issue before and I just unplugged it, plugged it back in, no problems. So I was testing earlier and there was continuity between the little solder point right here, but not the terminal. So is there a cold solder joint on the high beam terminal? I think that's just from maybe from vibration from 40 years of, you know, service. Right there, see I'm measuring it? It's infinite, but if I measure to the solder point, like that, about half an ohm. So what I'm going to do is just reflow the solder joints on this vintage light bulb, and we'll see if it works. Amazing. Out in the middle of nowhere on a campground, we have a functional soldering iron that heats up faster than a bench unit. Let's see if we can reflow these solder joints right on the bulb. Now this might be vintage high melting point solder, I don't know. But it's starting to melt. I'm going to heat up the terminal too. We just need a little bit to attach the original joint to the terminal. I should probably do it. Then we can touch up the other ones. All right, take two. Low beam, high beam. Low beam, high beam. That's it. Now we're fixed. Cold solder joint on the bulb inside the headlight. So even on a motorcycle vacation, can't go a day without some diagnostics and repairs in the field. Hope you enjoy the footage from the GoPro on the twisties. Phenomenal. These roads are just probably the best in the world for spirited riding. Catch you on the next one.